Hello, bridge builders! I'm here with some exciting news. The first volume of interviews is now available on Amazon.com. The link can be found at eatlunchandboardgame.com. I promise that all proceeds from sales of this book will go right back into this podcast and channel. Whether that is new and better audio equipment for the podcast, or video equipment for the YouTube channel, or even more games to review, the money will not be wasted. Click over to Amazon and get your copy of Eat Lunch and Board Game, the first course today. And thank you for supporting the show. In this episode, I am joined by author Amanda Bridgeman, who resides in the land down under. She wrote the book Pandemic, Patient Zero. Yes, that is a tie-in book to the award-winning Matt Leacock board game of the same name. She talks about how she got involved in the project, the woes that the COVID pandemic caused, among other things. She also talks about how she judges a game by the cover. More accurately, how the artwork is what draws her to a game. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins. And with me today is author Amanda Bridgeman. And Amanda wrote a tie-in to the Pandemic board game called Pandemic Patient Zero. And she's joining me all the way from Australia. Amanda, how you doing?
Hello, Adam. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's been, it was interesting. I read your book probably right after it came out. And I don't know, we started playing Pandemic at work a lot, and I was like, you know what? I want to read that book again. And so I did. I'm like, I should reach out to Amanda and see if she'd be interested in coming on the show. So I'm really glad you came on. It was a really great book. It's a fun read, a lot of references to the game. So that was a lot of fun. How did you get involved with the Pandemic game book?
Well, it's really actually many years in the making if you consider my publication journey. But the short version is I released an original science fiction novel called The Subjugate through Angry Robot Books. And the publisher there was a guy called Mark Gascoigne. Now, right after this book came out, he left Angry Robot Books. And he went quiet for a little bit, and then one of his offsiders messaged me and said, would I be interested in writing tie-in? And it was all very secret squirrel back then, so I had to sign an NDA and everything. And then I was offered some different properties to write for, and Pandemic was one of them. And I thought I really... I'd seen the game everywhere and just had such stunning artwork that always caught my eye, and I thought, "Ooh, I want to have a look at this one." So, and they wanted to channel sort of NCIS and CSI kind of vibes, and that was kind of up my alley too. So, so I said, "Yep, I'd love to write for that." So I then had to come up with a pitch for the story. So. In order for me to come up with a pitch, I kind of needed to understand a bit about the world and the characters. And so, because, as you know, with the board game, it's kind of on the simple side in terms of like the world building. You've got the character roles and all that sort of stuff. So in order to come up with a novel, I had to have a think about that. So I ended up inadvertently writing a series Bible for the novel series. So I set up all the characters with backstories. I came up with the organisation, and right down to the logo and all that sort of stuff. And then sort of based on that, I sort of gave them that, and then gave them my pitch, and then the pitch came off, and so I started writing the novel. So. Long story short, it was, I'd worked with the publisher before, and that's how it came about.
That's awesome. So you did use the word series, which I'm glad to hear that there'll be more coming.
Well, I'm not sure because the interesting thing about that is all of this happened with my pitching and writing the novel happened in 2019. I submitted the novel to the publisher in November 2019. I got the structural edit back in January 2020. And I remember doing the edit and watching the news and thinking, oh, this is kind of weird that I'm editing a novel about a pandemic when one could be like breaking out in China right now. And sure enough,
Yep.
it was supposed to come out in June 2020, the novel. But because of what was happening, it got pushed back to September 2020. Then it got pushed back to March 21. Then it got pushed back to September 21. And so then finally it came out. And so I think it's about the audience's appetite for reading about pandemics, having just lived through one. So
Well,
I hope there will be. They were planning a series. They may still be planning a series, but they might just want to give the population a bit of time to.
well, I understand. But at the same time, I mean, it's a good book. You have a lot of great characters, and it was an interesting. I liked because it's called Patient Zero. So the whole plot of this first book and in the Hopeful series, the whole first novel, they're trying to track down the Patient Zero, where it all started, so that they have a starting point to create the vaccine and everything. And that whole adventure that they go on was really, I mean, I've played Pandemic a lot, and I never thought about that aspect of it, and definitely not the direction you took the characters, I can tell you that. But now when I play the game, I'm kind of like, should we even go to the jungles of South America? I don't know. But yeah, you what?
Enter at your own risk.
Yes, absolutely. So did you play a lot of Pandemic to kind of get ready for the story?
I did, because I hadn't played it before I was going to pitch on it, so I immediately went out and bought the game, and started playing with my family and my nieces and nephews and stuff. And every single game we played, we killed the world.
Yeah, that's,
So,
that's about right.
I've yet to save the world playing Pandemic. So thankfully, the heroes in the novel are a lot more, sophisticated and experienced than I am in saving the world. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you had did you do a lot of research on pandemics and the medical side of things when doing this? Because it seemed pretty legit to me.
I did. It's the most research I've ever done for any novel ever, because all the other stuff I've done is it's sci-fi and stuff like that, but it's more on the hand wave to sci-fi than hard sci-fi. But with this, I knew it had to be, pretty on the money. So we ended up setting the book a couple of years into the future because we had to get into a place where it was after COVID. So I did have to go back at one point and do an edit to add COVID references in, because if we released the book after COVID and didn't talk about COVID in a pandemic novel, then, we'd get criticism for that. So
Sure.
But in the lead up when I was writing it, I watched documentary after documentary, did so much research on viruses and all that sort of stuff. When I was first pitching, my initial thought was to write a story about Ebola, because Ebola is just terrifying, I think. And then I thought, is that too obvious? I might do something less obvious, but something that people can really relate to, and who can't relate to an influenza, a killer influenza virus. And it's just kind of sucked that, the virus that I have is similar to a coronavirus in terms of the symptoms and sort of stuff like that. So that was unfortunate. That again, not only have I written a pandemic novel, but I've written one with very similar. I've predicted the future, basically, kind of almost.
That's the way I would pitch it. I saw the future, and this is what I wrote.
This is what I wrote. I call it bad luck, but anyway. But yeah, no, most research I've ever done for any novel, because I knew that medical people out there would certainly pull me up on it if I've got it wrong. And funnily enough, when I've done conventions and that, the people who have really flocked to it have been nurses. Nurses were like super like, oh, a novel about a pandemic, and this is why, because Australia wasn't
Interesting.
as badly affected, so we could still have the occasional convention and stuff, but see, we would
You
see
could
them out
just
there.
kind of hide in that little corner of the world down there,
Yeah.
easily isolated. That's why everybody likes it in the game Risk. They just kind of hide down there in the corner in Australia.
My state in particular had borders up for a long time and wouldn't let anyone in, so we were pretty much living an ordinary life in my state, while everyone else was freaking out. But we had to open the gates sooner or later.
Yeah.
I still haven't had
Yeah.
COVID.
Wow. Good for you.
I
I've
know.
had it once. That was fun. Not really.
Yeah.
I was so tired from it. I'll tell you, it was like a lingering lethargy. I had no energy. Everything exhausted me. And it took about, I don't know, 3 weeks after testing negative before I had energy to do anything again.
Yeah. I've heard
Like, it was
that.
like, yeah, going up a flight of stairs. Oh, so tired. Okay. Gotta
Yeah.
rest halfway up the stairs,
Yeah. I figure it's going to come and get me at some point, but it hasn't yet. It hasn't got my mum yet either. So maybe we're just one of those people that are asymptomatic. I don't know.
Here's to hoping, right?
Here's to hoping.
Oh, so you said earlier, or in an email to me, I guess, that you played a lot of games as a kid. What kind of games did you play growing up?
Okay, so I'm a child of the 80s, so keep that in mind.
So
So
am I.
obviously, a lot of the games back then, the classics like Monopoly, Trivial Pursuit. A personal favorite of mine. It wasn't actually a board game as such, but I absolutely loved Guess Who, which I'm sure started my love for like murder mysteries. Not that it's a murder mystery, but you still got to guess who's that person. So,
It's the
um,
deductive reasoning.
sorry.
It's the deductive reasoning.
Yes, yes.
Do
So
you
I loved
have
that.
glasses? Hmm. You
Mm,
never wanted the glasses or the bald person, because that always pretty much just
yeah,
too many fell.
too many fell. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I loved all those sort of games when I was a kid,
Nice.
and uh, yeah, so keeping it to board games. Yeah, I've always been a big jigsaw puzzle kind of person myself, but yeah,
Wonder if that goes hand in hand, because I've got a big. I do a lot of puzzles, and right now I'm working on a 1,000-piece puzzle of Clue.
mm,
Just a whole bunch of like old Clue like laid out and everything. It's it's a big, like I said,
yeah,
1,000 pieces. So I wonder if that goes hand in hand. I guess I never thought about that.
mm, yeah.
So now that you've written Pandemic and hopefully more Pandemic, is there another property, another intellectual property or game that you would like to write a story for?
Well, for me, an obvious answer and possibly a lazy answer is I would love to write in the Alien and Predator universes. So, and I know there's board games out there with around Alien and Predator. So that's my lazy obvious answer, because I would just, to me, Ellen Ripley is the queen, and yeah, I'd love to write in those two IPs. Um, in terms of like other properties that Aconite books do, I think Arkham Horror, it looks really really good. Like, just, I judge a lot of games on their artwork, and Arkham Horror has really great artwork that really can inspire a lot of stories, I think. And there's that mystery element and solving a mystery element to it as well, which attracts me. Um, other than that, yeah, there's so many games out there with really cool artwork. Uh, I've got Dead of Winter, and
Yep.
that would be cool to write in. So yeah, any of those kind of ones.
Be some desolation there.
Yeah,
Cold, trying to survive.
yeah, absolutely.
We used to play Dead of Winter at work. We never could get it in a lunch hour, that's for sure. But man,
No,
it takes a not that long though, just over an hour. But man, it was always really bad when you had that trader who didn't put the food in or whatever, and somebody had to starve, and then you're all like, "It was you," and yeah, it was. That's a very could be a very depressing game
it could
because you're
be,
trying.
could be, unless you just shine a tiny light of hope that pulls people through.
I mean, that game doesn't have a lot of hope. A lot of zombie attacks.
Yes,
So,
true.
Aconite, they also have Terraforming Mars and is
Yes.
another property, and I see they have a couple books on that out. So, to give that a shot, I think not one of my favorite games, but I think the world is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that would be up my alley. Some of my sci-fi stuff is set on Mars, so it would definitely, yeah, huge world that you could. There's so many possibilities of the stories you could write in there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I can't even think about how I found out about the pandemic book or something. It had to be Amazon's algorithm being like, "Hey, you gaming nerd, check this out." And I'm like, "Hey, all right." I have a whole shelf of books about board gaming, and the only other book that I have at the time, and well, still, is the Rebecca Gablay's Settlers of Catan.
All right.
She
Yep.
wrote a whole like epic novel about the founding of the island. And so, how do you say it?
I say Catan,
Do
and
you?
I
All
thought
right.
maybe that was my Australian accent, but you said it the same, so I can't.
No, I try not to say it first. I totally forgot my own question. I try not to say it first. I don't want that in your mind for you to
No,
answer it.
that's
No,
how I'd say Catan.
not well, sounds right to me. So, but yeah, so that book very long, and but it's written, like I said, kind of like an epic story, and yours is a lot easier read. I can tell you that.
Oh
It
yeah.
was a lot easier to get into and a little bit more relatable because it takes place, now-ish, as
Mm.
opposed to hundreds of years ago. But so I guess it's probably because I bought that book off Amazon and I buy a bunch of board gaming stuff, and it was like, hey, check out this book called Patient Zero about pandemic, and I was like, add to cart. So,
Go the Amazon algorithm when it works for you.
oh man, yeah. I don't know if my wife thinks it works for me. It costs me a lot of money. So, but they do
this,
nail exactly what I need.
this is true.
Uh, but yeah, and now I'm like thinking, okay, maybe I'll read the Terraforming Mars book. Why not? So
Yeah,
you friends with where's
I say aconite.
Aconite? Where are they based out of? They out of Australia or
No, they're UK based, Nottingham in the
so?
UK. So yeah.
Hmm. So do you know any of the other authors that write for the other IPs?
You get to meet them over Twitter and stuff. The only one I know personally is an author, Maria Lewis, who's Australian, who I've done a lot of conventions with. She's about to release a Marvel novel. So, but other than that, all the other ones I just know through Twitter. Really,
Now you have a Marvel novel too, don't you?
I do. Yes,
Yeah.
Sound of Light featuring Dazzler. So with a whole bunch of other of the X-Men in there. So that came out in the US in November. And this month, now that it was 1st of February here in Australia, so this month,
Ooh, look at you, 14
look
hours
at you,
ahead.
future. Um, um, yeah, so this month in February, it's going to be out in the UK and Australia. Finally. So, yeah,
It is always time zones are hilarious. I'm calling tomorrow. It's amazing.
I know, right?
That's awesome. So, do you play any board games at lunch or any?
No, so I'm actually on long service leave at the moment, so I'm like a full time writer. But when I was working a day job, I was working 4 days a week in a day job. Normally on my lunch breaks, I would be writing or doing something, you know. So you got to try and grab time where you can get it. So,
Oh, I get it. I get it. I have a day job. Unfortunately, it's not playing board games and reading and writing about board games and making podcasts about board games. So I understand. I spend
yeah,
my lunch hour board gaming and playing games that can they be played in a lunch hour, and right now I'm in the middle of judging a competition, a design competition that I sponsored about designing a game to be played at lunch. And so my coworkers and I have played 5 of the 7 finalists, so we got 2 more to go. And so I understand spending your lunch hour doing your passion. I get it. So more power
that's
to you to be a full-time writer now.
that's so cool too to have the 60-minute board game or the 30-minute board game. I mean, I think that's because a lot of the ones I have tried, well, a lot of the ones I haven't had a lot of time to try many, but like Dead of Winter and even Pandemic, when you're playing it for the first time, unless there's someone there who knows how to play it and can guide you, it takes a long time to try and read the rules and figure out what the hell you're doing. The
Sure.
board games are obviously a lot more complicated today than what they were back in the 80s, obviously. So
Thank goodness.
yeah, so to get a game that's you should be able to play in 60 minutes, I think is great.
Yeah. I mean, Pandemic, we started playing some of the expansions and the add-ons and stuff. And so when we play Pandemic, the 3 or 4 of us, we know how to play the game, and it still but we put all the extra stuff in it, and it takes a solid, well, if we lose pretty quick. But if we don't, it does take 45 minutes to an hour. We had one game, I guess it was last week, and man, we got down to it, and we ran out of cards. We
Oh,
had everything under control, but we ran out of cards, and we couldn't get the last disease cured
oh no.
because we didn't. I'm like, how did we get this far into the game and that's how we lose? We didn't. We kept like I said, all the viruses were under control. 2 of them were eradicated. They
Oh
weren't
wow.
even on the board. But we ran out of cards, not cubes, cards. And you run out of cubes, you die. You run out of time, you die. It's like it was so frustrating. Have you ever tried any of the expansions and the add-ons and stuff?
No, I've only ever played the original game.
No, there's tons
Yeah.
of replayability in just the base game because there's so many different roles and characters, and obviously by it being a deck of cards and the randomness of the cards coming out at different times. I mean, one game, the red could be the big problem, and the next game it's the yellow, and all of
Yeah.
that. So
The other games look so cool though. They look awesome. And again, it's just if I had a bit more time, I'd be totally into all of them. It's just like,
you have to write less. That's all.
I know, I know. It's an addiction. I've got to stop.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by mine. I got board games everywhere.
Yeah.
So, if you had more time, what game would you play? What game have you not played that's piquing your interest?
What game would I play? Well, I've never played Arkham Horror, so I would like to have a crack at that. But I do like the look of terraforming Mars and even Catan. I've never played Catan.
Oof,
The
that's a good
ones
one.
where you're kind of building a little empire, and I like those ones. Kind of they remind me a little bit of Monopoly, but in a different way. But that you know
Sure.
building things. Um, what else? Uh, yeah, look, there's just actually, I'd like to play the different versions you see out there of Monopoly. Like I saw there's a Stranger Things Monopoly, all those different kind of slants on
Yeah.
Monopoly.
As long
But
as
yeah,
they have a little twist on the rules, I'm all for it. Which
yeah,
they're getting better with. It used to be where it was just the IP was slapped on there and that was it. But now they've got versions that change the rules a little bit. So like we
mm.
have Avatar: The Last Airbender Monopoly, and it
Ah,
adds a little. Yeah, you have a little change to that. So you have a character, and if the die rolls the white lotus, then your special power or ability triggers. So a little change to the game. It's not just avatar stuff, around the board, and you still play Monopoly. It's a little different game, which is fun.
Mm, mm.
So the
Yeah,
Monopoly, they're doing a good job.
yeah, um, yeah. There's so many. I was actually trying to have a look yesterday because I thought, oh, you know, in the event the question comes up. But yeah, there's heaps, and again, for me, it all comes down to artwork as to what's going to draw me in.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I yeah, that's a big thing, and it's also the expensive part of making a game. I can tell you that.
Oh yeah, I bet.
I do like good artwork. I don't think bad. I mean, I can't really think off the top of my head of like a game where bad artwork has like kept me from enjoying the game, but good artwork will draw me in. I hate to say that I like, but you do judge a book by its cover, judge the game by its cover. That's why it costs so much to.
Yeah,
That's why you spend the money to get the cover made, is to draw those people in.
absolutely.
So this gets expensive, I can tell you that.
Oh yeah.
So when you do play a game, if it has colors, Amanda, what color are you picking?
Um, Look, when it comes to clothing, my go tos are black, white, and red. But when it comes to board games and things like that, I will generally just go with whatever color calls to me. That probably sounds a bit weird, but like when they're kind of scattered on the board and you're about to pick, I'll just like what draws my attention. So it could be pink, could be purple, could be yellow, could be green. So I don't necessarily have one color that I have to go for. It's just whatever calls to me on the day.
Well, there you go. That'll keep the fighting and bickering down.
It would, unless someone else wants the same color as I do, and then the elbows get involved.
Oof, oof. That's wow.
I'm
This
kidding.
just took a violent turn. watch, watch out for Amanda. She throws elbows. Let her have her color. It's not worth it otherwise. Oh man. So yeah,
What color do you have?
I go with red or orange.
Red or orange? Yep.
Yeah, usually red, but now my daughter started picking red, so I'm trying not to pick a fight with my 4-year-old. So I kind of slid to orange when it's available.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Good dad. Good dad.
Well, I don't want to discourage her from playing games, so
Yeah.
if she has to be red, when you get older, we'll we'll push you to a different color. But for right now, she can
Yeah.
be red for a little bit. Man, I really do hope they let you write another book. Because, like I said, you left the characters at a good spot, wrapping up that story arc. But there's more that can be told, and
Absolutely.
I hope you get a chance to tell it.
Thank you. I've certainly worked hard to leave enough threads dangling for the characters that myself or other authors can tease out in other books, and just the world of pandemic. There's so many different storylines that you can do when you're talking about access to vaccines, or just the story of a virus breaking out like I did, or the politics and the red tape behind these organisations and funding, and so much. There's a lot to explore.
Yeah, well, I mean, just the on the brink expansion brings in mutations and mutagens,
Yep.
and it also has a bioterrorist character that plays opposite everybody else. So you
Yeah,
have the normal group of people working together against not just the game, but a person playing as a bioterrorist. That'd be an interesting story that could
absolutely.
be, like you said, teased out.
Mm.
See, you gotta look into those. You gotta look into the expansions.
Yeah, I know, right? Get on the phone to Aconite.
Yeah, there you go. Like, hey, I got this idea. So you have a fairly local game shop that you go to down the street or in town or whatever?
There's one at my local shopping centre. I think it's called Games World. And I often try and just stick my head in there and have a look at what's new, and you know, always smile with pride when I see Pandemic on the shelf.
Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't you? Be like, Be going back. Is there a book about this game? I
Yeah, you
think
should
there's a
stock the
book.
book.
There you go. You should go in
Say
and
that.
do it. That's what you gotta do. Throw an event down there.
Yeah,
Be good.
absolutely.
That'd be good times.
Mm. I went into. I've got a short story out in the Warhammer 40k universe, and so I went into my local Warhammer shop the other day and had a good chat to them about it. So they were quite excited.
It's
Someone from Perth's written in for Warhammer.
That's awesome.
And
That's
again,
awesome.
I've never actually played the game, again due
I
to
mean,
timing and stuff, but I certainly did all the research involved with the world and writing the characters. But yeah,
it's gotta be complicated to write and not know the game, I guess. But knowing the world, I think, is more important than I guess, right?
oh yeah, especially with something like Warhammer, which has been around for decades. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
such a rich history there. So yeah, but the publishers are always help you out with that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's you can learn the world and you can learn the gameplay, but not everyone can necessarily write a story. And so it's more important for the publishers that they get people who can write the story as opposed to an expert in the game.
No,
You know?
I can
Yeah,
totally see that being a completely different
yeah. So it's
mindset.
some of the writers, like, it's great if they're already fans of the world and the universe, because they're kind of already there, and the ones who aren't just have to get up to speed pretty quickly. But that's when you're a writer for hire, that's it's kind of your job to get up to speed quickly. So but yeah,
A writer for hire.
writer for hire, gun for hire.
Do you write anything other than books and stories? Like screenplays or plays, stage plays?
Yeah, I have been working on screenplays, both TV pilots and feature films, in a variety of genres, from like comedy dramas to thrillers. And one TV pilot's an adaptation of one of my novels. Actually, one of my other novels, The Subjugate, is actually being developed for TV.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, by Aquarius Films and Anonymous Content, who did True Detective and Mr. Robot. So
Just
very
small shows.
small shows, small shows. So it's in development. Fingers crossed, we can get it over the line. We've managed to jump through a few hoops so far in terms of the development process, but there's still quite a few to jump through. But it's so far so good. Fingers crossed.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's really cool.
Thank you. That'll be a dream come true if I can see something I've written up on the screen.
Yeah. So would you adapt it, or they got somebody else adapting it?
They have at the moment, because they're still at pitching phase, so they've got a writer on board who's sort of leading that. Whether I get into the writer's room or not, I'm not sure. There's a lot of people who have to sign off on it to get me in there, not just the producers, but whoever they sell the show to and that. So yeah, I'd like to be involved, but if not, so be it. The show will still have my blessing.
And your name.
And my name, I'll still get the credit. So
That's right. Darn right. Based on the book by. There you go.
There you go. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
Very, very cool. Very cool.
No, that is really cool. That is, boy, that'd be just really awful, wouldn't it? If your show or your book got turned into a show. Oh, so bad.
I know, right? I know.
What a tough life.
There's 2 books written in that series, and I had planned another 2. So I have a big long list of like stuff I have to write. But if the TV show goes ahead, the other 2 books might climb up to the top of that list pretty quickly.
Go the opposite route of George R.R. Martin, then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my books are a hit. Well, let me push that 6th book way down. Way down.
Yep.
Yeah. I gave up on those. He'll never finish them. It doesn't matter at this point.
I've heard it's like I thought I'd read that it was nearly ready to go, so I don't know why he doesn't just get it out there. I mean, it's going to be like he'll be swimming in money regardless, so just do it.
He has no motivation to. I think that's the problem. He has no need to. Like you just said, he's swimming in money. He doesn't, from
Yeah,
the first series and now the prequel series and all this other stuff. He has no reason to write that book
true. This is
or
true.
finish it or whatever, whatever step of the process he's in.
See, I'm the kind of writer where it's like if I've made a promise to the reader, I have to deliver. So if I've started a series and I've left things dangling, I need to finish that series.
Oh,
No
that's
matter
good.
how much I want to work on something new and shiny, it's like I've got to finish this.
There's always something new and shiny.
There's always something new and shiny. Always, 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 always. But in the back
Trust
of my mind,
me.
it's like, don't be George R. Martin. Finish. Give your readers the ending. Don't be George R. Martin.
But you don't have the beard for it.
No, I don't have to for it.
Well, Amanda, I'd like to thank you for being on my show today. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. If people wanted to reach out to you or find your works, where can they go?
Best place to look is probably my website, which is amandabridgeman.com.au. Otherwise, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Trying to start up a bit of TikTok.
I don't get TikTok. I have no idea what that is.
No, look, I'm struggling too, but the main two you'll see me on is Twitter and Instagram.
I think I found you through your website, I think. Maybe? I don't even remember. I think I just kind of kept clicking links until I got to an email address.
Excellent.
Yeah, it works out well. And as usual, if you want to reach out to me, it's eatlunchandboardgame.com, eatlunchandboardgame@gmail.com. And remember, board games build bridges. When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com.